All right, these are the Chapter 3, 2, and 3 quiz corrections. Hopefully you follow along. Remember to do the quiz corrections. You're going to have to take out your own sheet of paper. You would have to write out the entire question. You have to show me the work. You have to give me the right answer. And then you have to tell me what you did wrong the first time. I would suggest that you not try to write the questions while I'm going over the quiz so that you can at least correct the quiz so you know what the right responses are, so that when you go back and actually do the quiz corrections yourself, you're able to explain the difference between what you were supposed to write and what you wrote and why you got it wrong, because that's the key to this. Please don't turn in this quiz only with corrections on it. That's not what quiz corrections are. Quiz corrections, again, you write on your own paper, you write out the question, you show your work, you tell me why you got it wrong or what you did wrong, okay? And then, of course, you have to have the right answer. So I go through this basically so that you know what the right answers were. Your job is to do the rest. All right, so it says Holly has a sweater. She spends $150 at the shopping mall. It's $35 per sweater and $20 for pants. Most people got this right. 35S plus 25P, or 20P, I'm sorry, equals 150. And that would be correct. That's an equation. If they said write an expression, it would be this, without the equals. If they said write it in a function, you would put an f of x. Okay, or f of s, comma p. If you were going to write this as a function, it would be this, remember? And then you would write this. But they write an equation. Next, she buys 3 sweaters. So what you were supposed to do is put the 3 in for s, do the math, and then give me an answer. Most of you gave me an answer, but then you didn't do this second part, which was explain your reasoning. So you had to, 1, show your work, and 2, explain your reasoning. So showing your work would be 35, and you put 3 in here, plus 20p, equals 150. Then, of course, you would do the 35 times 3, which is what? Correct, it's 105, plus 20p, equals 150, which means then you subtract 105 from each side, and you get 20p equals 45, and p equals 2.25? It's 2.25? 2.2? Something like that. So then the question is, how many pair of pants can she buy? How many pairs can she buy? 2. She can buy 2 pair of pants, but it's 2 point something as the answer. Why is it that she can only buy 2 pairs of pants? It said 2 point something. There we go. You can't buy pieces of pants. Right, that's what I was looking for, the explain your reasoning, because you can't buy pieces of pants. The actual number answer was, I don't know, what is 20 divided by 5? Is it 2.2? No, not divided by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 2.25? Okay. And the reason 2.25 is not the answer is because you can't buy pieces of pants. Okay, and then it says, if Holly buys no pants, what's the greatest number of sweaters she can buy? So what you were supposed to do is put a what in for P. If she buys no pants, what would you put in for P? You put a 0 in for P. That's what you're supposed to do. Just like on the software, where you're putting in numbers for different things. This time you put a 0 in for P. Hopefully you know that 20 times 0 would be 0. That's why I just wrote 0. And now you're left with 35S equals 150. You divide by 35 and you get S equals what?
4.
No. What is it? 4.3. And then you answer the questions. How many sweaters can she buy? Because, right, you can't buy pieces of sweaters. Okay? It's 4 because you can't buy pieces of sweaters. And that's what we're looking for. Many of you had 4 as an answer, but you had no work. So the 2 things I had to see were the work and then the answer with the reasoning. I just couldn't have an answer. You can't just sit with your group and say, what's the answer? Because it's a lot more complex than just writing a number down. Okay, next one. Solving for the, this is what we call our little equations. This is solving for the variable. So this one says solving for r. So when I read this problem, it's c equals 2 times pi times r, which means if I need r by itself, I have to divide by what? 2 pi, right. And that was it. C divided by 2 pi is what r equals. Next one said to write a equation in standard form, which means you were supposed to move what to the same side? And what happens when you move the negative 1/4 x to the other side? It becomes positive, right? Anytime you go across the equal sign, whatever you move changes signs. So I'm moving the entire thing over here. I'm not splitting the 1/4 from the x. I'm moving the whole thing over here. Hopefully you understand these are called terms. This is 1 term, this is 2 terms, this is 3 terms. Okay? Terms are things that are separated by the signs. So this is 1 term, this is 2 terms, here's another sign, here's 3 terms. So I'm going to put the x term and the y term on the same side. So it's now 1/4 x plus y equals 3. Did the 3 move? No, it stayed on its side, so it stays the same side. Now what's the second rule? Not only do x and y have to be on the same side, but you also can't have a fraction. Which means you have to multiply this whole problem by what? 4, right. So it would be times 4, times 4, times 4. And I think there was only one person in here who got this problem right. And I believe it was Amaze. Good job, Amaze. So when I multiply everything by 4, I get x plus 4, 12, or 4y equals 12. It's not difficult. It's a process. But that's how you change it to standard form every time. You got to get x and y on the same side. Then you've got to get rid of all the fractions and decimals. All right, so now it says write an equation in slope-intercept form. So that means I have to get the y by its. So when they say solve for put in slope-intercept form, it means the same as solving for y. They're the same. So you're going to get the y by itself. So that means I have to move which of these two things? 2x. When I move it to the other side, it becomes negative 2x. Yeah, this is not too difficult. Then I have to divide this whole problem by 3. Why am I dividing by 3? Because this is multiplying, and to get rid of the 3, I have to divide. So this becomes y equals negative 2/3 x plus what? 3. Yes, remember if it's a repeating decimal, all you have to do is leave it as a fraction. Remember, x's can't just disappear. I had people have x's just float away. I don't know what they were doing. I had some people who never answered anything. Okay, number 5 again was very similar to number 1. It was pretty easy. The math is done the same way. Many of you did not show the arithmetic. I'm going to write down the original equation. I won't do the rest of the work though, because you should know how to show your work and what you did wrong. It's pretty easy to figure out because most of you didn't show any work for these problems. Some of you didn't even do them, but it would be, they told you to use V and D. So it would be 40V plus 15D equals 175. And then they tell you to plug in 2, and the answer was 6 DVDs because you can't have pieces of DVDs, and the second one was 4 video games because you can't have pieces of video games. But what I didn't see is that people put the work. So I'm going to show you what the first step would have looked like. You were supposed to put in 2 plus 15D. This is you should realize that this is exactly what the software had you do. They gave you a number, you plugged it in, you got an answer for 40V. 40V would be 80 in this case. Then you would subtract it and you'd get what 15D is. 15D is 95. And then when you divide, you get D equals 6 point something. Okay. Then last but not least was being able to write this in slope-intercept form again. So that means I had to move what over? And when we move 5x over, it becomes what? Right. Hopefully you understand the x has to come first. Many of you are just throwing it anywhere. It's written in y equals mx plus b, which means you just bump everything else over. It just bumps over. The x has to come first. Anything with a variable has to be written before just numbers. That's just polite. I guess you call that polite mathematics. Having mathematical manners. Then you're going to divide this whole problem by 2, right? So you should have y equals negative 5 over 2x minus 3. And that was it. That is all 3.2 and 3.3 is on. 3.4 was being able to use distribution. Other than that, does anybody have any questions?